And so, 2 game weeks have passed in the blink of an eye since the last meaningful update. And my lords have emerged from those hyper-manic game weeks in a very strong position indeed. One that could have been even better were it not for some rookie mistakes. But in this tempestuous season of shifting sands, it's a position almost every manager in the game would be grateful for. Game week 14 was a momentous one in this season's FPL calendar, and it will forever be remembered as the game week the uncontent creator ended his gladiator hunting by taking Mighty Morton's head as a trophy. Having planned all season for that game week 12 wildcard, I was told I'd lost the plot to go 2 game weeks early. However, I'd sensed not only a weakness in the gladiators' defences, but also an opportunity to seize control of the FPL narrative and to turn the momentum of the FPL season in my favour. And then my game week 10 wildcard team outscored the team I would have had. And then my game week 11 team absolutely obliterated it. By game week 13, I'd gone from 680,000 in the overall rankings to the top 100k. A massive rise in just 4 game weeks. One that proves there is always a method to my madness. And then in game week 14, my master plan came to fruition as I became the first gentleman past the 900 point threshold, cementing my top 100k ranking and taking top spot in the world's greatest mini-league for the first time this season. As the greatest striker in all of world football, justified my faith by wiping out that double Liverpool defence of the Gladiator and scoring the 11 points that took me clear. And though it was frustrating that Haaland had found no way through that defence the game week before, it just made it all the sweeter that my ascension to the apex was delivered by Alexander the Great. However, though it was satisfying to see myself at the top of the table, not a single salt tear was shed, because the League of Gentlemen has not yet been conquered, and I was still 93,580 places away from the ultimate subjugation of the FPL world. However, though I had closed the gap on the world number 1 to 146 points, we were another game week closer to the end, and the ground made up was not enough. I simply could not afford to rest on my laurels. I had to continue to attack, and with 3 transfers to play in game week 15, it felt like it was my moment to strike. And then I went and made the rookie mistake of moving early with my transfers, and it all blew up in my face. Having suffered at the hands of Alexander-Arnold and the Arsenal defence turning on the attacking power, the time felt right to redistribute my funds to bolster my blundering backline. Yes, Mykolenko had just hit 11 points to somewhat justify my budget rotation, but his fixtures were twisting like a tornado, while my other 4 defenders were giving out more gifts than Santa himself. And you all know where this is going. I saw the potential for price swings on livefpl.net's almost flawless predictor. I got overexcited and I sold Bruno Fernandes to bring in Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
Oh no.
So game week 15 didn't start off that great, knowing I'd blown a transfer on a player that wouldn't play. But that's not all. To generate the funds, I'd had to bring in a budget attacking player. He'll be alright, I thought. I'll bring in Morgan Rogers. He started hitting the returns and he's got Southampton next. And it's not just that. Bruno Fernandes has started playing deeper. It'll be alright to sell him. As for the defenders, well, Rico Lewis has been crap for weeks. These moves make perfect sense. But in this game we call FPL, nothing ever truly makes sense. And those FPL gods are not the benevolent kind. First the storm came and took out Trent and Mo Salah. And then the tempest came and whipped up goals for both Lewis Lewis and Bruno Fernandes. The same Bruno Fernandes that the Dragon had captained. So that's me, 10 points down, 2 transfers lost and my magical momentum at risk of swinging back in their favour. And then Umbumo scored and assisted, but then Isaac got the goal that kept him ahead of Crying Brian in the points race since I made that transfer switch. And then the thinking man's whistle went and outscored the plebeians Pedro once again, keeping this maverick mastermind one small step ahead. But then my third new signing, Kirkers, went and conceded to Ipswich, and the VAR clouds blocked out the Starboy, and then Soft and Sanchez conceded twice in the opening 10 minutes. And my league leading laws were burning up in the soaring dragon's fire inside a single flaming game week. And then along came the call to grasp the game week in the palm of his hand, freezing out my rivals with a stunning 36-point Captain Hall. And if the game week had ended there, that would have been wonderful. I'd have gone from 65 points off top spot to 15 points clear of the rest of the gents in just 5 game weeks. A point swing to inspire every FPL manager out there. A comeback to echo through the ages. A master plan well and truly executed to perfection. But there was still one more game left to play, and in it I only had Aït-Nouri, while the 5 closest threats to my position all had that cursed Cunha. And somehow my ailing Algerian outscored that blasted Brazilian and extended my advantage even further. And look, it would be easy for me to sit here and bemoan my bad luck with the transfers. Bruno, Lewis and Mikalenko to Trent, Kirkes and Rodgers looked great on paper, especially with the fixtures they all had. And I could say you can't account for a storm, but if I'd have listened to the FPL community's #1 weather reporter, Andy Martin, I could have held off on my transfers and reassessed on Saturday morning. I've lost so much team value already this season by waiting until the deadline, so God only knows why I didn't do it again this week. And that's on me. That's my fault, and it's a mistake I need to avoid making again if I want to turn this season into a success. If you believe, as I correctly do, that no player is essential in FPL, then missing out on somebody because of 0.1 million shouldn't be a catastrophe. There's always another option, and quite often it turns out to be a better one. I wasn't unlucky last weekend. I got it wrong, and I'm not too proud to admit that. And anyway, in the last 2 game weeks, the injured Isaac went and got me 2 goals and an assist. My budget striker outscored the popular pick, and my captain was awarded not 1 but 2 penalties to save my game week. So for me to complain about luck would be both ignorant and entitled, and I'm not gonna do that.
I gotta admit, you were great out there today.
Thank you.
But you weren't that great. A lot of that was luck.
Well, some might call it luck. I'd like to call it, well, luck, I guess. So what?
Rather than focus on the few things that went wrong, I'd rather count my blessings on the things that went right and be grateful for the fortune bestowed upon me. Yes, my game week 15 could have gone better, and when you look at those scores from my dismal defensive plays, you can see why I made the moves I made. But to end up with that score when only 4 players returned, well, it could have gone an awful lot worse. I could have captained Watkins only to see him benched like King Ding, Lionheart Lamb and Red Hot Rob did. I could have seen my captain's goal eradicated from the records, leaving him with 32 points fewer than the popular pick, like Hilo Hodgson, Jockin Jeeves, Grinchy Vott and 3 other gentlemen did. I could have gone from the highs of a differential captain's goal to their score being obliterated, like how the Dragon turned Terminator Triss and 10 other gentlemen suffered. Those mishaps could prove devastating to my rivals' chances of success, so I'm not gonna sit here and bemoan my own outcomes, especially when my position and ranking are still so strong despite my blunders. But yes, the outcomes of the weekend mean game week 16 is shaping up to be pivotal in the League of Gentlemen, and with the table looking like it does, I simply must get the decisions around my team correct. My original plan last week was to bring in Timber for Dallo. Instead, I shifted Mikolenko to Kirkes, feeling there was a greater opportunity for an immediate gain. That move did not have an immediate payoff, but now I have 4 defenders with great home fixtures, so perhaps bringing in Timber this week is not the most beneficial move for my team. Indeed, given Wissa's woeful away form, I might be best served to start Aitnori against Ipswich rather than the Brentford Barnstormer, or even selling for someone like Evan Ilson. And part of me wonders if it's worth taking a hit to upgrade Sanchez and Diblin, perhaps bringing in a cheaper keeper and Enzo Fernandez, giving me a genuine alternative 8th attacker. But then I ask myself, if I think Sanchez is going to concede, why would I sell or bench Wissa? Still, it's a tempting proposition, especially given the shakiness of Chelsea's defence, the sublime nature of their attack, and their fixture run until game week 28. What's losing 4 points in a game week after all, if it gains you 20 or 30 points in the medium term? I dare say when it comes to the crunch, I'll roll my transfer. In the back of my mind is that upcoming fixture swing for Haaland, and while Haaland may not appeal right now, it's always worth keeping the option open for the Norse force. However, FPL is always about grasping opportunity, and if I see one, I will not be scared to move, whether it's shifting Wissa to Evan Nilsson, Dallo to Timber, taking the hit for Enzo, or even something else I haven't considered yet. All I know is that after blowing my triple transfer advantage, I have to make the right choice this time, because the consequences of repeating my game week 15 errors will be severe. Yet in a game week where so much went wrong, rather than curse those bastard FPL gods, instead I thank them for the few things that went right. Not only did I manage to extend my lead at the top of the world's greatest mini-league, but 2 valuable lessons have been demonstrated to me in the most extreme way possible. The first is the obvious: to wait as long as possible before making those transfers, because you never know what might happen. And the second lesson is perhaps even more valuable. It's that even if only 2 or 3 other players secure returns, if you get your captaincy correct, then even the worst game week can become a successful one. And those lessons may hardly be the most groundbreaking or insightful, but the FPL gods reminded me of their importance this week, and they let me off with my mistakes. And I don't know why they did it. Perhaps they offered clemency because of the nature of those 3 highly intense game weeks. Maybe they felt I deserved a break because of the effort I'm putting into the game this season. I just don't know. There's every chance they are raising me higher so they gain greater amusement from my eventual fall from grace. All I know for sure is that the spotlight is brighter than ever, and I cannot allow it to blind me from my own errors in judgment. At least after such a hectic period in the FPL calendar, we've had a bit of space to breathe. These few days of thinking time are well needed, allowing our emotions to settle and cooler heads to prevail. And after a game week where the coldest of all Palm anchored his way to warming our hearts, game week 16 is one we can all look forward to. The winds have passed, the fixtures look sensational, the points are there for the taking, and that 1,000-point threshold is tantalisingly within reach. And so, ahead of the final game week before the festive frenzy kicks into overdrive, let me just say, may all your transfers be successes, may all your arrows be green, and may those FPL gods be in your favour. Become the calm in the eye of the storm by hitting that subscribe button, and we will see you next time.
It's an FPL nightmare, got me pulling out more, yeah. I'm the greatest football manager to ever grace the old armchair, but the FPL gods hate me, and no one seems to care that my points are only average, and my ranking is not fair.